So it looks like we have a few people with us here today. Thanks so much for taking 15 minutes to join us. We've got a very brief session today, and opportunity to talk a little bit about some success we're having together with Alamo Community Colleges and Coursera. I'm curious, for those of you who were not able to join the session on Friday, which I think is potentially a few of you, Friday's session, we talked very briefly about a project that we're initiating together. Dr. Sammy Morrill, who's the Associate Vice Chancellor for Economic and Workforce Development at Alamo, and Dr. Luke Dowden, Chief Online Learning Officer and Associate Vice Chancellor, presented on an initiative underway at Alamo Community Colleges, basically looking to leverage the community college in workforce development. They've got a project underway together in partnership with Coursera. I am Kimberly Pullman. I am the University Partnerships Manager for Coursera for Campus. And without further ado, I feel like we're a little compressed for time. I want to focus this session maybe on the most salient points that we were not able to get to on Friday, which is what is making the project so successful. Talk about what kinds of factors contribute to a successful program, and in delivering pathways to help folks reskill, get back to work, find better jobs. We have a couple of topics to potentially talk about, but I want to make best use of everyone's time. If there are specific aspects or topics that you all would like to address first, I'd love to have anybody type into the chat if there are topics that are high priority for you that you want to make sure we get to in this brief opportunity we have to kind of pick the brains of these two folks and what insight they might be able to share with you. But if everybody's going to be a little bit shy, what I can do is maybe ask our two panelists, my two co-presenters, to talk first about some of the key components of what they did to launch a successful program, and maybe share some of their insights. Could I go ahead and get to the first topic? And that is wraparound services. And I don't know, Luke or Sammy, if you'd like to kick this one off and maybe share with the audience a little bit about the project, and specifically how Alamo Colleges is contributing to student success by localizing services.
Sammy, did you want to start?
Sure, I can. I don't know if we want to jump around to the model that we had, but I'll talk to it. So when Luke and I first discussed the partnership with Coursera and leveraging the content that they had specifically for IT career pathways, I was looking for a solution set not only for incumbent employers and training, expanding our training portfolio, but also a way to meet adult learner needs. And so we knew that if we leverage the content for adult learners and adult education, our programs, that we would have to have some type of academic support structure around it. So we brainstormed on that a little bit and came up with an academic coach model that would be there to look at pace and progress as a student progresses through the course content. That also gives us an idea of additional support services we may need to have on the academic side for student success as we go. So piloting this year, our projected goal is 100 students through the Google IT Support Professional, so that we'll have 4 iterations of 25 students, so we can continue to learn what type of services we need to have to look at student success. And I tell you, I'm also looking at what level of academic readiness they need to be in order to be successful through the program. So it's multi-pronged. Luke, anything else you want to add to that?
Just that you've got to identify a person that understands the parameters, right? So we had to create some expectations for our content coach. It also meant that we had to fund them going through the training themselves, right? Because not that we could find everyone that has gone through the Coursera training. So we wanted someone that had recently gone through it and then was ready to help students throughout as they had questions. So no, I think the pace and progress is a big point, right? Is that anytime it's self-directed or self-paced, you need to have some academic supports around it. I think anyone that's studied competency-based ed knows you've got to add in some different types of support, and this is our attempt to do that.
Luke, I know in some of the initial conversations that we had together, you had mentioned that one of the critical components to launching a successful program was also getting support from key stakeholders within the system and being an advocate for the program. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit more, expand a little bit more on sort of becoming an internal vendor?
Yeah, and just for everyone else to understand our setup, I'm the Chief Online Learning Officer for the district, and we manage the relationship with Coursera for all of our different constituents inside of Alamo Colleges district. And so first, Kimberly, we're challenged, both Sammy and I, right, by our chancellor to have a larger line of sight, right? So what's going on across the organization, not just within our initiative. And for some time, I had observed an opportunity to support both economic workforce development and our continuing ed with this kind of offering. And it, takes a lot of conversations, and there were specific needs that Sammy had with her grant partners, her workforce businesses that are part of workforce grants that we're able to see. So part of that journey was just seeing the internal opportunity, right? So looking at the challenge of on-demand, online, immediate training, and so that's one. And then two was to begin to make the business case, right, for why this was good. Why this was good for our partners first, and then why it was good for our district to have this resource, right, this asset that we've put in place through our partnership with you. So that's, it's not the timeline journey, right? And then I think it also had to do with working with you and JP. I think y'all provided some flexibility to us to try a few things out and get comfortable with the opportunity, and that was helpful as well. You listened very well to what our needs were when we engaged you early on. Sammy, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I think you have to maneuver. It's a different relationship when you talk about creating an internal vendor too, and it's change for the organization and what it looks like. And so you do have to be able to, for Luke and I, right, we were brainstorming and thinking about how quickly we could do this. And I would tell you from our side, from EWD operations, I had been spending a lot of money going to third-party external vendors to meet gaps in the training portfolio. So when we had employers that had a need for training and I could not provide that training, either we weren't going to get them on the grant in order to support them, or I would go to a third-party vendor. So it was better for me that internally I could create some type of vendor system internally to get content that I did not currently have in the portfolio. That's important to talk about, leveraging the content. And the other piece is understanding who the stakeholders are internally to help you set up an internal vendor system, an actual process and workflow for that. So, and we're working through that as we create this model moving forward.
Excellent. We did have one quick comment or question in the chat. So specifically around the wraparound services or localization services, do you have any thoughts or comments on what provides the greatest value to students?
We're informed by, we're fortunate. We've got lots of universities in our area that we partner with, right? So we benefit from their research, and some of the research that heavily influences us is validation theory by Dr. Laura Rendon. And so to me, it's that person, we think it's the content coach, right? That can provide validation. You have to remember that some of the people that you may want to serve through this opportunity, right, through Coursera or a partnership, may not have a lot of confidence, or they may have had a bad experience, or they may not think that online learning is for them. And sometimes it's the limitations people put on themselves. So being informed by research, And then we're trying this practice of a content coach to validate folks, and so I think sometimes we get focused on the skills and the delivery mechanism, and we do the paperwork and forget about the people work. And I have to give Dr. Morrell credit. She does not forget about the people work while we're doing the paperwork.
No, that's awesome. I think especially because coming from Coursera, I have the opportunity to talk to many different 2- and 4-year institutions. I've had a chance to speak with many of them over the last year. And one of the questions that I get is, if students can go directly to Coursera, what's the value of having your content offered through my program? And so I think, what you're saying about ensuring that level of student success, and having somebody available there, showing them a pathway to a job, all those additional services that Coursera is not able to provide, I think is what gets folks that last critical step to actually finding employment and moving along in their career path.
And I'll echo that, or add to it, that for us, student success ultimately is employability.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a key factor for us. Industry curated content that led to an industry recognized certification was key. So yes, we want them to be academically successful. We want to meet their needs in the wraparound. But at the end of the day, our job is to get them employed and to get them to self-sustaining wages. So that's the other piece as our lens. And I think it goes back to the Friday discussion, right, of employability, the cost management, and really about capacity. So it gave us another tool capacity wise. And I'll give this as background to those that weren't on Friday. What happened during the economic recovery strategy for the city of San Antonio was that they came to us with a requirement to train over 5,000 students. That is a huge multiplier for how much we typically put through continuing education. So we needed capacity alone. And so this has given us, and there's other pathways we're looking at right now that we could be able to triage those individuals who have lost employment, but may have a lot of experience, some college. Some of them are coming to us already with a college degree, but they did not. So they're bachelor's, master's degrees that are coming to us in the recovery program, but did not gain an industry recognized certification during that education journey. And so we're looking at how can we maximize this content for those individuals as well.
Excellent. Here's another potential area that could be of interest to folks on the call with us today. When you think about, so you might have a need, there's a potential audience out there. Maybe can you talk a little bit about, like, what does the heavy lift look like to get a program like what you have up and running? Is it expensive? Does it take a long time? Can you share any insight into where to get started, or what are some of the key objectives to have in mind going into a project like this?
Sammy, did you want me to start? Yeah, so, well, first, I think we've tried to do this. You got to have a clear value proposition for the partner, right? And obviously it's the content, it's your relationship with the companies and your ability to turn that content over. So that's number one, right? Like, why are you partnering in the first place? What immediate, or what is the overriding benefit? And then after that, you have to look at your cost structures. We're fortunate, we had people in place. So we're able to process map different roles. For instance, we're not getting in between continuing ed and EWD and their business relationships. We may be a part of those, but we're not inserting ourselves in between it, right? We're providing back office support. So we did some process mapping, creating some clear agreements about who does what, right? How do we operationalize the work so that ultimately, very seamlessly, an opportunity surfaces to train a worker at an industry, and within 24 hours at best, or maybe at worst, right, as we learn and we improve, we've got someone into a Coursera course, right? They're signed up, they're taking classes, they're ready to go. So I think the process mapping and the roles, so you don't, so you're very clear at the outset who does what and what relationships need to be managed by the people who manage those relationships. That's what I would say, Kim. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. I know we're at time, but I think next is lunch. So I would say if there are any questions from folks in the chat, some additional expertise that these two folks might be able to lend you, or any questions about what they're doing with Coursera, I'd be happy to entertain those for a few extra minutes. And I'm not seeing the questions roll in, but
I just have a quick question that I can ask real quick, but instead of typing it is, so where does this live? Does it live under continuing education, or is it, no, it's not under continuing education?
The partnerships managed by Alamo Colleges Online, so we're under academic success. The sales part of it lives under continuing ed and under economic workforce. So we're just an offering. We're another offering for them to have as a part of the other vendors that they may work with.
Thank you. Hope that answers your question. Fantastic. Excellent. Well, we have, please, do connect with us on LinkedIn. We do have a recording from our session on Friday, which was a little bit more detailed about the wonderful opportunity that community colleges have to play a role in upskilling local citizens and getting them back to work. And partnerships like this, and we wanted to showcase and show off best practices. I appreciate everybody being here. Sammy and Lucas, thank you so much for presenting with us. We really appreciate it. And congratulations to all the finalists. We'll conclude the session today, and look for you on LinkedIn. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.